So, you want to make good power on your naturally aspirated daily driven TB42 and get decent fuel economy to save yourself a bit of money, hey? Well, 12 litres per 100 about, better power than stock, and it only cost me $300. I would recommend, before you watch this video, if you're going to do this yourself, go watch my previous video, time-lapse rebuilding this carb. It's a good video, bit fun to watch, but anyway, it's worth a watch. But without further ado, back to the main video, and I will show you how all this is done and how you can do it yourself. Allow me to introduce what is, as far as I can tell, a stock Nissan TB carby. The one I've got on my car is a little bit different to this, but it is in all basicness and essence the same. I believe these are a Nicky carburetor. I know the one that I've got on there is, and they are just garbage. They're way too complicated. The one I've got on my car is tuned okay at the moment. For fuel economy, it's getting, like somewhere in between 16 and 18 litres per 100 at the moment, which is pretty good as far as these go, but still not great, and it is truly gutless. It'll pull alright once you let it rev a bit, but if you just slap on the throttle, the accelerator pump obviously isn't working, and it hesitates a heat there and is super sluggish. And allow me to compare it to this. This is a Weber 3480M. They are automatic choke, although you can get manual choke ones, or I could convert this to manual choke, but the automatic choke on them is pretty simple, so I think I'm just going to leave it as auto choke on this one. So it's basic. The mechanical secondaries, as you can see there. So mechanical secondaries, pretty much everything on them is mechanically driven. Mechanical accelerator pump, and it's all pretty basic. You can see you've got your air jets just in here. You can reach in with a screwdriver and swap them out. A couple of things on here that I probably won't need and I could take off, but I'll leave them on for now anyway. Like the throttle nudger here, I don't think I'll actually need a throttle nudger, but I may as well for now leave it on anyway and then take it off when I am sure, for sure I don't need it. But yeah, they're way more simple, a little bit smaller bore size in them. So both carburetors are obviously 2-barrel carbs. However, this one is 34 has smaller bores down here than your stock carburetor will, so you would expect it to make less top end power but be a bit more responsive, but I expect that it will probably be better than the stock carburetor in every way. These are quite well known for getting pretty good fuel economy while producing a fairly decent amount of power, and they're obviously a good brand company, being Weber, Italian made, high quality piece. So this is something I completely rebuilt. This I just pulled out of my pile of spares. So yeah, I've completely rebuilt this carburetor. As you can see, some of the parts in here from before I rebuilt it, and yes, it was full of rust inside. It was pretty bad. Anyway, let's get into this. So it's going to go on the TB42. I'm going to try and keep it the stock manifold for now. That probably won't last too long, but for now it can stay with the stock manifold. So I've bought a Redline 10-220 adapter, and even though these aren't a direct bolt-on adapter, they won't fit straight up. I have heard that they're probably the best ones to use, so we're going to be using that and modifying it and studs and whatever however we need to make it fit up. So here's the stock studs out of the manifold. Obviously they're not going to be long enough, so I bought some threaded rod, same thread as the stock manifold thread, and some nuts for that to make longer studs to go through, which shouldn't be too bad. However, one of the studs has to be bent on an offset, so yes, I'll thread that when I get to it, bend that when I get to it, sorry, and show you how I'm doing that. But anyway, let's get into bolting this onto the carburetor and trying to see how this is all going to work out. Okay, we've got those bolts in. It is important to note the bolts you get in the kit that come with the adapter, they're only that long, so it's not even long enough to get through the carburetor block. So you'll have to go out and buy yourself some longer bolt. And next up, I'm going to get my spare intake manifold, my just junk intake manifold. We can start mocking this up against that. Okay, so over here on the manifold, if you're able to see, you'd be able to see that the holes aren't perfectly lined up. So width-wise, the holes are fine. They'll be okay there. But length-wise, the adapter is slightly more compressed. Oh, sorry, the manifold is slightly more compressed with the length between its holes than the adapter is. So I think with a tiny little bit of filing on the adapter, it should be fine. So that'll only take a couple of minutes, but it's worth getting out of the way now rather than running into it later. I'm going to cut off a little bit of sacrificial metal rod and thread it into there, then sit that on top, the adapter on top, and with the piece of metal rod threaded into there, I'm going to weld up all this area in the adapter, just leaving the metal rod part sticking out, and then I will take the adapter off, unthread the metal rod out of there and drill the threads out, and then I should just be able to sit that on top with the studs poking through, the little stock studs. They can just poke through however much they want to, and I'll just run a nut down on top of here. because I'll be able to flatten this surface out once it's all full of weld in there. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so obviously I haven't updated you in a bit on this, but here is where we are at with it. Check something under there so you can see a bit easier. Alright, so I think I left off welding there. TIG weld is broken at the moment, so JB weld it is, which isn't what I would have liked to have done, but it will do the job quite fine. And as you can see, those stock studs are just poking through there. They will do that perfectly fine there. And if I take this off, I've put a piece of threaded rod into that stud hole and bent a piece of threaded rod there to be the same as that one to match up with this hole. Used a bit of heat with that and it came alright. Also over here I have used the little tool here to kind of grind out a little groove there for a washer to sit in, so that washer can sit in there and spread the load out across this so it doesn't put a heap of load on this JB weld there or whatever. But anyway, that is on there now. I have used the little porting grinding tool there as well to port out there a bit so it matches up to there. There's not really much I can do on this side. The adapter obviously just doesn't line up there with that surface unless I ground the intake, which I don't really want to do. And it doesn't line up over this side either in here, but I'm not too worried about that because I don't think I'll be keeping the intake on the car for too long before I switch it out to something else. So anyway, that is on there, and if I can line it up, that carburetor just slots on there and works fine by the looks of it. I will put the bolts through for this, put actually not a gasket on the bottom, but I'll put a gasket in between there and bolt all that up, and I'll take the intake off my car, not the intake, the carburetor, sorry, and we can go about putting this on and then start working to hook everything up on it. So let's go. Right, so we're on the road with the old carburetor just so we can do some side-by-side comparison between the old and the new. I will get my stopwatch out, do a fourth gear pull from 60 to 100, and then do a fifth gear pull from 60 to 100 and see what times we get on both of those, both in fourth gear and fifth gear. And then I can convert that, compare that, sorry, to the new carburetor we're putting on. So the fourth gear pull will be kind of simulating our mid to high rev range, and our fifth gear will be our low to mid rev range. I could probably do a third gear pull from 60 to 100 the same to get the really high revs, but that's not so much what I'm interested in here. So as long as they're low, mid, and you know, you're starting to get up into the high revs is a little bit better, then I'll be happy. There we go, 60, go. Oh, that's slow. 80. We are going up a hill, but only slight. 90. See that stops. 100. Update time. This is all sitting on here. All seems all good. Just needs to be bolted and tightened up. Sorry. And for the throttle linkage, I have just put it through this stock bit here, where when the throttle sits up here, which I think it's about there it sits, and it pulls, it gets full range of motion. It's a bit hard to do it here one-handed, but it works fine. So then to retain the throttle plate, the throttle bit in there, I've made up this plate that just sits over the top and bolts through those two bottom holes. So that sits on there and just stops that linkage from sliding out. So that should work fine for the throttle. And then it is ready to go on the car with this. Okay, so we are back. I spent quite a long while tuning this thing, just getting it to run right, and it runs pretty good now. A lot better than it did with the stock carb. But anyway, we're going to test it out and see how much better it runs. So that's pretty much that with this carburetor install. So I hope you found it a little bit helpful, and for all you TB42 guys out there getting like 25 litres per 100 and making basically no power, this is a pretty good way to go and still keep it naturally aspirated, keeping your costs down, and getting really nice fuel economy. So yeah, it's been good with this on. I'd definitely rate it. And before all you tuners out there start going, oh, you're running away lean, getting fuel economy that is that respectable in a TB, it is not running lean at all. It was running lean with the original carb I had, and it was burning a valve. I could hear it missing on that valve. It was sucking back in air through the exhaust. It was not running well. But this is running rich enough that it's brought that burnt valve kind of effect back out of it, and it's running smooth again. It's running, yeah, really nice. I've got no complaints whatsoever. And for what this cost me to put on here, it's kind of a no-brainer. You're making that up in fuel in like a couple of months' time, honestly. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you found this a bit educational, especially for you TB guys out there, having a bit of faith in your motor that they can do what you want them to do. You don't have to TD swap them, you don't have to Barra swap them, Cummins swap them. These motors are fine. But yeah, like the video if you've enjoyed this and found it helpful and good, and subscribe up to the channel, and I'll be doing more stuff on this car, more stuff on this motor. It's definitely got a long way to go till it is the way I want it to be. Be making a lot of different mods, kind of out of the ordinary, what you don't usually see, just to make it mine and make it fit for what I want it to do. So thank you for that, and I'll see you next time.